And we're getting finally ready to wrap things up with 1 Kings. We're starting again at chapter 22, verse 16. And the king said unto him, How many times shall I adjure thee that you tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord? Notes. I think Ahab's feigning the desire to hear the truth, but in reality he has no desire to actually hear the truth. I think he's trying to lure Jehoshaphat into doing these things for him. But anyways, verse 17. And he who is Micaiah said, I saw all Israel scattered upon the hills, and sheep that have not a shepherd. And the Lord said, These have no master. Let them return every man to his house in peace. Notes. Ahab was a false shepherd, and whether he believes it or not, he is about to die. Verse 18, And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you that he would prophesy no good concerning me, but evil? Notes. It is very clear that Ahab had understood perfectly the purport of Micaiah's words. Verse 19, And he who was Micaiah said, Hear thou therefore the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, and all the host of heaven standing by him on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said, On this manner, and another said, On that manner. Notes. He is given a true vision of the throne of God and its occurrences there, which he is now relating to Ahab and Jehoshaphat. And the meaning is that Ahab's death in battle had been decreed by the counsels of God himself, and that the divine wisdom has basically devised means of accomplishing that pursuit. Verse 21, And there came forth a spirit, and stood before the Lord, and said, I will persuade him. Notes, this is an evil spirit right here. We learn from this, as well as from Job chapter 1, particularly verse 6, that spirits of darkness as well as Satan at times have access to the throne of God. And during the coming great tribulation, Satan and all such will be cast out of heaven, allowed no more access. Revelation chapter 12, verse 7 through 9. Verse 22, And the Lord said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he said, Who shall persuade him and prevail also? Or you shall persuade and prevail also. Go forth and do so. Notes. Now this lying spirit would inspire these false prophets to prophesy the evil that was desired. All of this reveals that God and his heavenly host include demons on certain occasions, and they have conferences concerning the affairs of men on earth. The idea is that God permitted such deception to take the place of the rejected truth. You see, if men will not have the truth, they will automatically have a substitute that will be more in harmony with their wicked ways for the time being. Ahab would not have the truth and would not listen to Jehovah, despite all the attempts made by the Lord to reach this man, but he would believe the lies and listen to these false prophets. Now this passage simply gives an insight into the spirit realm, showing that behind all human acts there are good and bad spirits seeking to carry out their respective wills of their particular boss. The Lord protects as long as he can, and when there is nothing else he can do to turn men from their wicked ways, error and harm, at least by righteous means, he then permits demon spirits to deceive the person. This causes the individual in question to go further astray, and in this case with Ahab, even unto his death. Whenever God does something like this, he is attempting to bring something negative into your life to try and get your attention. Jeroboam, the king known as Jeroboam, was a pretty good example of that. I mean, it even boiled down to the death of his son, trying to get Jeroboam's attention, if you will, but once again, to no avail. All of it for repentance, but to no avail. Verse 23, Now therefore, behold, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all of these your prophets, and the Lord has spoken evil concerning you. Notes. Well, true enough, it was not what Ahab wanted to hear. Continuing. But Zedekiah the son of Cheniah, or Chen-A Chenaanah went near and smote Micaiah on the cheek and said, Which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto you? Notes. The prophecy of Zedekiah and the prophecy of Micaiah were totally different. The first one spoke of blessing, while the later actually spoke of doom, or the latter spoke of doom. But both of them could not be right. In essence, it is basically the same presently. Thousands of false prophets are prophesying blessing, 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 and victory upon a church that has no true victory, while the few true prophets are attempting to call the church to repentance. As with Ahab, both cannot be right. Anything other than the absolute truth is a 100% lie. Verse 25. And Micaiah said, Behold, you shall see in that day when you shall go into an inner chamber to hide yourself. Notes. Well, which is no doubt about to happen when news came of Ahab's death. And the king of Israel said, Take Micaiah and carry him back unto Amon the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son. And say, Thus saith the king, Put this fellow in the prison, and feed him with bread of affliction, and with water of affliction, until I come in peace. And Micaiah said, If you return at all in peace, the Lord has not spoken by me. And he said, Hearken, O people, every one of you. Notes. The bravery of Micaiah condemns the cowardice of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat should have stepped down from his throne, thrown his mantle around the courageous prophet, and valiantly taken his stand at his side. There is no one more cowardly and contemptuous than a Christian who walks with the religious world. Micaiah is led away to prison and to torture, and Jehoshaphat raises neither a hand nor a voice on his behalf. Now, fortunately, Jehoshaphat would wisen up, and he would become a better king, and in fact, he would be one of the more righteous kings. But it didn't happen immediately, I'll tell you that much. Verse 29, And the prophecy is fulfilled. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah went up to Ramoth Gilead. And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and enter into the battle, and you put on your robes. And the king of Israel disguised himself and went into the battle. Notes. Here we have these two royal clowns at once. They meet in this verse, and Jehoshaphat was a fool to go into battle at Ahab's suggestion in his royal robes, or at all for that matter. Ahab was a greater fool to propose to escape the divine doom pronounced upon him by going into battle in the first place. Verse 31. But the king of Syria commanded his 32 captains that had rule over his chariots, saying, Fight neither with small nor great, save only the king of Israel. Notes. In other words, their sole mission here was basically to kill Ahab. And it came to pass when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat that they said, Surely it is the king of Israel. And they turned aside to fight against him, and Jehoshaphat cried out. Notes. Well, this was a cry for divine help, and the Lord mercifully heard, and he answered. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, that they turned back from pursuing him. Notes. Very, very sadly, they went after Ahab. Thankfully, they didn't kill Jehoshaphat, but unfortunately, they did get Ahab, and my personal opinion, he died lost. Verse 34. And a certain man drew a bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Wherefore he said unto the driver of his chariot, Turn your hand, and carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. Notes. Ahab's attempt to disguise himself served no purpose. A Syrian archer shot, not knowing where he was shooting at, but the Lord had taken the arrow and had it to meet Ahab in the same place. Very, very sadly. And we must pick up in chapter 22, verse 35 of the book of 1 Kings. Thank you, and God bless.